Right, welcome. I'm not sure if this is a different video or is this part of the video before, but hey ho, anyway, I'm going to now drain the oil out of the Daytona at the sump. I'm going to do the rear bit there first. I'll just put my cleaned oiled pan there, and then if I go around to the front, there is a front bolt there to take it out of this this part. So we'll get as much out as we can, let it drain, and then once I'm happy, I'll probably leave it overnight to drip out. I'll knock the sump off, I'll take it out tomorrow, take the sensors off, and then we'll have a look at the seal. Yeah, it's simple, that is. It's not going to be a particularly exciting video, but I'll do some bits and pieces once it's drained out, and if there's any telltale stuff in the oil, because obviously it's been running now, it's been run in, or halfway through running in, I'm not sure exactly. Yeah, we'll see. Right, so I've just dropped the sump off. I say just dropped like it was no hassle. Starter motor had to come off first, clear up some space. Let's put the lights on it. It took a while to drain the oil because it hadn't been run for a few hours, so it wasn't that cold. So the first thing I noticed when I took off was, see the blue patches there in the gasket? That's where it's squeezed so much that it's basically destroyed the gasket. So obviously that answers the question of whether I need to get another one. If I need to put one on, then it's definitely got to be a new one. There's a few spots around it. Pretty much we're near where most of the bolts hold it. Yeah, the bit that I think it's leaked was around, I think this light, yeah, light's doing no good at all. Is around this rubber seal on there, which when I looked at this, I didn't have a comprehensive line of liquid gasket, the silicone that I put on there. So I'm pretty sure that's just my fault. So that should be easily fixable by putting it back on with this much access and putting it directly up there. The front end was fine, obviously. Yeah, it was pretty much here, I think, was where most of the weeps were coming out. So yeah, I'm not going to peel the gasket off until I've found out A, whether I need another one, and B, well, getting it really. So yeah, so question for everybody as well. So I mentioned a minute ago the oil, the sort of goopy thick lumps that were on the on the sump drains, which is basically the bottom. So when I took this off, I had to look in. Everything that hasn't drained out, it's quite some thick crap at the bottom of it. And on the back there's this white, like a, not waxy, but kind of thicker than the oil. So this is the first time, obviously, it's been off having had oil in it and the engine's run. So I am assuming that this is just, what's come out of the engine after it's been built, like build lubrication or greases and whatever they put on bearings and bits and pieces and valves to put them in the engine. I don't know. But yeah, there is a kind of coating. It's hard to see really. It's not thick, but also once it sits still, the oil that sits on top of it is clean. So the whole oil, all of the oil isn't this colour, as you can see by the colour of all the clear drips around it where the oil's been splashed around, and everything that was dripping out of the pickup for a while was all clear. So yeah, it'd just be interesting to get a couple of comments and see whether that's common. Put my finger through there. See, that's the. There's nothing in it. There's no metal, which is quite crappy. So I'm assuming when people drain their oil for the first time, they don't take the sump off. Then that kind of gunk never gets cleaned out. Obviously, I'm going to clean it out of this one now. Yeah. So anyway, I'm going to stop the video now for the day, and I will pick back up when I've got something to say about new gasket. Right. So this is 2 days since that last clip you've just seen. I popped a post on Instagram and asked a question about the gasket and where to get it from, because I couldn't find the part number for the single piece gasket for the Millerton sump in the UK. And yeah, loads of people piped up, and actually Real Steel was suggested, so I popped on their website and then gave them a call, and they had out to me the next day. So yeah, now it's got here today on Friday. It looks awesome, nice bit of kit, got some fresh bolts. I got these little, I think these are for the 4 slightly bigger, I think all these M10s, whatever, the 4 ends, so you can just pop them in by hand and then finger tight it in maybe while you're working the other ones in. I'm not entirely sure, never seen them before, but it's probably what I'll have a go at, because yeah, it takes the weight off me. So what I've done since the sump, I cleaned it all out and took all the gasket off, cleaned all that, everything. That was, yeah, easy enough job to do. Here I wiped around took all the oil off, but over the last 24 hours it's gone, there's a few more drips there, so I'll clean it again in a minute. But I picked out all of the old dried liquid gasket, you know, like the silicone shit that was all around, especially in these little tab with the holes where the tabs go into at the at both ends. There you go. Yeah, pop the rubber glove over there because the pickup just kept dripping, and I didn't want it all over the floor. So it's, ooh, look at that. It's quite full now. Anyway, I'll stop fiddling with that. Yeah, one other thing I did yesterday was, because I had to make up my own dipstick. I'm assuming you could buy them, but I didn't. I made one. So I got a generic dipstick sort of kit, and then made it fit one that I got that fitted the sumps. Anyway, it was a long-winded process. I think I was given the wrong information, or I misheard originally of how many quarts to go in. I think it's 6 is what I was told. It may have just been a mistake. It may have been on my part, but either way, it is a 7-quart sump. So when I wasn't sure basically as to how deep in the oil this goes when it's got 7 quarts in. Obviously it's 7 quart plus the filter. So now I know the filter's full and everything was where it's supposed to be. So what drained out is effectively what's normally in there. So because it was in the pan, I mean, it's only got a couple of hours of runtime on it. So I poured it all back in after I've cleaned it, let it settle. Well, I blocked it up so it's completely level. And then I mocked up with a bit of TIG welding rod, imitated the dipstick tip, which is exactly the same length, if I hold it up there, as where it screws in to the fitting. So when it was full of oil, I just put this in the fitting where it would be, and then saw how far up my temporary dipstick the oil actually came at 7 quarts, and then compared it to the dipstick I'd made, and it is actually right at the top shoulder. So it is above the fall line, but the thing is, I now know that 7 quarts is the top of the flat panel. So yeah, hopefully that, it sounds catastrophic, but if it didn't have enough oil in it, that probably would have been an issue why I was getting the oil pressure light flickering on when it was up to temperature, or getting up to temperature. So either way, we'll put in, I actually had enough left over of the break-in oil to top it up. Strangely, I don't know why. I obviously bought enough but didn't put it in. So yeah, anyway, that's enough of the long story there. So what I'm planning to do today now is I'll give this a nice clean up again, wipe over. I'll offer that up once I have a wipe over to make sure it is going to fit, and there'll be no problems. It just rather measure twice and cut once. Offer that up, and then I will put some liquid gasket on. I've got a couple of different tubes of it. There we go. A clear one, which I've just used for the thermostat housing, and a black one. No preference, I just grabbed this one first, so I'll use that again for today. Yeah, so we'll get that fitted on. And while I'm talking about what I'm under here, I still can't see it. So yesterday I had mentioned in the earlier part of this video that the thermostat housing was leaking after I'd taken it off before. My bad. So yeah, I stripped all the water out. I drained all the water out. Luckily I had this drain plug that I fitted when I built the tube down here. So yeah, drained the engine of coolant into a bucket, and then took the housing off, cleaned it all up and put it back on there. I left it overnight with it sort of semi-tightened down, but not enough. And then this morning, tweaked it back up again, and then put the water back in. So that's it's holding now, but of course it's going to hold. It's not at temperature yet. So yeah, that's what I've done so far. So now let's get the sump done, and I'll offer up and I'll do some filming in between, but I'm certainly not going to put you on a time lapse because that's pretty boring. Yeah, so I'll come back to you in a minute. Right, I figured this was worth just dropping a clip in. So I've just offered this up on here, and I was just looking at these pins again. I mean, I'm sure half of you are smacking your forehead telling me, shouting what it is. So I just thought, well, if I'm going to push it up by hand and then offer these in, it's a bit of a pain in the arse. But actually looking at the design of it, this threads into the bottom of the block, and then they push down through. So as you offer up, and then you see the design of them, they'll clip in. So once you offer I'm going to push it, it's going to shoot straight through now, but there we go. As you offer the sump up all the way, all 4 of these are in, here, there and there, that actually will hold the sump in that position, which I'm just guessing is about close enough for then all of the other nuts to thread in. So I mean, this is a genius kit. I'm sure it's old news to most of you guys, but yeah, real genius. Way easier than compared to putting the old one back on again when I was under the car when it was on the floor just being jacked up on stands. So yeah, there we go. Once I've wiped out all of this, I'll just throw these little puppies in the 4 holes that need to go into. Right, I'm just going to do a little bit about the gasket because I'm generally really chuffed with how this kit looks. I mean, maybe I shouldn't be, but I'm pleasantly surprised. So first off, it's the Ultra Seal, hang on, lights on, Ultra Seal Premium gasket. Yeah, it just is awesome. Like, obviously it's a 1-piece kit, so it's better than the 4-piece that I had originally. Having these little blue clips, which I've now wound into place, I mean, they're going to be great. I can offer it back up and just, like I said a minute ago, they'll clip over these holes and hold the whole pan in place. The hardware they give you with it's great. So you've got 6 of the larger bolts. I only need 4 because I only got 4 on my engine, which are the larger size. The gasket's gigged up or set up so that you can have 4 of them at the front, 2 of them at the back. I suppose that depends on what casing you have at the front, whereas mine's got one larger and then go straight into the smaller thread. So I don't need those. So these 2 are necessary, but it still gives you enough of the smaller bolts. So I've got 9 for either side, which is all that I need. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So yeah, I'm just really happy with how set out the kit is. I mean, it was including postage, packaging and VAT, I think about 60 quid. So, you know, you get what you pay for, I suppose. But anyway, so what I'm going to do now is I'll wipe this all down, all the edges here. I'll take off my glove, ditch that, and then put some the liquid gasket underneath that and on top of it, and then offer it up. But obviously, because I've only got 2 hands and it's just me, I will put the camera down until I've got it in place. Okay, just a quick 2 minutes or 2 seconds just to show you the liquid gasket all the way around, all around the holes. There we go. That's a better view when you get the light on it. Okay, so now I'm just going to offer up that, put it in place, and I'll run a bead around on top of it, like the other side of it, once it's in place, and then I'll offer it up. There we go, so that's it, offered up pretty much in place. It will get held exactly once it's up, and I've put another line of liquid sealer all the way around the top. I've used every drop that's in there, which means I've put just enough on, I'd say, whole tube. Yeah, it will get seated properly. So what I'm going to do now is just, offer it up like I keep saying, get it done. Okay, so now we've got the torque wrench. So I did some research, obviously before I came down to the garage, and it's 15 foot-pound is what these dig up to, no more. They do have the over, what's it called, like the over tightening rings inside that gasket, like crush resistance, but we'll go to 15. I'll set this puppy up in a second. And then, work our way around. But obviously, like I keep saying, I'll actually do it now, is in the pattern that comes there. So, yeah. Anyway, I'll get that done. And that's in. That's up now. All the bolts have been done. All the ones I could get with the torque wrench have all been torqued to 15, which was literally the bottom end of my torque wrench setting. It almost felt like it's a bit sloppy, but it's consistent. The ones I couldn't get to, which are a couple right up, as a focus under here, I've done it by hand, but with the feel of the torque wrench, so best I could. I mean, it does have the crush resistant collars in that gasket, so yeah, that's best I can do. Annoyingly now I'm gonna have to put the starter motor back in this position to fire it up to get the oil warm once I put the oil back in, obviously, then to see if there's any more weeping, and if there is, from the same location as before, which was here, I'd have to take it back out again to get in there to tweak them up again, because annoyingly those are the ones that didn't get to torque spec. Well, it didn't get done with the torque wrench, so if anything I may have slightly put a bit more effort into them. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do in a minute. But I just remembered when I did this, I mentioned at the beginning of this video, which would have been 2 days ago, that there was some contact between this steering boot and this, annoyingly. So I slacked off these, took both bolts out, knocked out that plate, which was just a sandwich plate at the back of this bracket, and did it back up again to spec. And you'll see there you got a gnat's hair of space. It doesn't touch anymore. So that's just one more of those jobs that I needed to do that hopefully will avoid another fail on the IVA. And also, while I had this bolt out to drain the coolant system for the thermostat housing, I changed the O-ring that I put on that bolt for a copper crush washer. No biggie, but the O-ring just looked pretty tatty, and considering it hasn't really been used, it's better to put the copper in there. So there we go. I'll put the starter motor in now, and then I'll put some oil in, and there's no point adding to the video because it doesn't make much difference. So I'll probably end this one as a quick video now. All right, cool. Join me for the next one.